Hello students, I hope you all are well here. Dear students, today we are going to discuss about one another interesting topic of business law, that is Indian Contract Act 1872. Here, before we start, let me remind you that we are learning the law, and as I told you that the language of the law is very tough to understand easily. Hence, we need to break the sentences of the definitions or any consent into two three words to get the meaning out of it. So today we are discussing on Indian Contract Act 1872. In this lecture we are going to learn few topics like definition of the contract, then identify essential elements of the contract, about offer, acceptance and consideration, and last topic we're going to discuss about parties. So let's start with the definition first. In the Indian Contract Act, the definition of the contract is like this. According to the section 2H, the contract is nothing but an agreement enforceable by law. Here the term agreement comes. So before understanding clearly about the contract, we must understand what agreement exactly is. So the agreement is nothing but the combination of offer and acceptance, and it is germinated under section 2A of Indian Contract Act. So another two terms arise here, that is offer and second one is acceptance. So before moving deeply into the contract or definition of the contract, we must acquaint with offer and acceptance. So as the definition said, the agreement is nothing but the combination of offer and acceptance. So offer, we generally use this word offer. Also we use acceptance, but in the law context the definition of the offer and acceptance is somehow critical. So let's see what exactly offer and acceptance is. The offer is nothing but when a person is said to have made an offer or proposal, when he signifies to another his willingness to do or not to do anything with a view to obtain the assent of that other to such act. See, as initially while start of the lecture I told you that the language of the law is tough, so we are going to break this definition of the offer into two three words to get acquainted with the definition. So how that offer definition will look like, and will focus. A person is said to have made an offer. That means a person who is going to make an offer or proposal. Why is going to make an offer or proposal? Because he wants to signify the another his willingness. So in the offer and acceptance, as these two words are different, somebody is going to offer and somebody is going to accept, the implied meaning suggests that offer and acceptance requires two persons to come into the interaction. So one person is going to offer and second person is going to accept that offer. So one person is offering something to the another person, and another person wants to give his willingness to the first person, and first person is the offerer who going to offer something. All right, so this is all about the offer. So while making an example of offer, if a person XYZ wants to sell his bike, that means he is going to offer something about his bike. So what he is going to offer? That XYZ will ask to the ABC person that I want to sell my bike for the cost of rupees 20,000. So this is the offer made by XYZ. So ABC is going to give his willingness or not, it depends on his consent. So what ABC will say, okay, I am going to buy your bike for the cost of rupees 20,000. So there is an offer made by XYZ and there is acceptance made by ABC. So what acceptance is? So acceptance is the act of accepting by the offeree to the offerer. If offerer going to offer something, it depends on the second party or second person that whether they are going to assent it or not, whether he is going to accept it or not. So how that offer should be? It should be express or implied. The acceptance must be express or implied. That means express means it has to be a face-to-face interaction, or implied means somebody going to offer via phone or in the vicinity of another area. So it is supposed to be a implied offer. Then it should be legal. There should be a boundary of legal laws or legal activity. Next one is it should be communicated to the offerer. The offerer has to be communicated by the acceptance party that yes, I am going to accept it or not. And last one is it must be in a reasonable time. There should be no vast gap in between offer and acceptance. So this is all about offer and acceptance. Now let's turn to a offer and acceptance example. So here somebody is going to offer, somebody is going to accept. So offer and acceptance when comes together for a certain reason, then that offer and acceptance combines with each other and it forms agreement, as we had a definition before about the agreement. And when this agreement is enforceable by law, it becomes contract. Hence the contract is nothing but an agreement made by offer and acceptance. So offer and acceptance when comes together, it becomes agreement, and that agreement when enforceable by law, it becomes contract. Okay, now let's see the various essential this is about the definition, that is agreement enforceable by law is contract. Now let's move towards the essential elements of the valid contract. See, as we learn about the definition of contract, that there should be offer, there should be acceptance, that is there should be agreement, but it should be enforceable by law. So to enforce any agreement and to turn it into the contract, there are certain elements to become that contract as a valid contract. Number one, offer and acceptance. As we said earlier, there should be offer and acceptance. Second point is there should be intention to create a legal relationship. See, offerer and offeree has to create a legal relationship in between them to come into the contract. There should not be any misleading points that denies the offer and acceptance. Third one is lawful consideration. There should be a lawful consideration. The offer and acceptance must be bound with the law. Next one, there should be a lawful object. Whatever the activity is going to conduct in between period of time in the contract, it has to be bounded by the law. It has to be all the objects should be under the law. Next one is capacity of the parties. The parties which enters into the contract must be competent enough. That is, he or she should not be of unsound mind. He should not be a minor. So all these points are required to become the contract as a valid contract. Next one is there should be free and genuine consent of the parties. There should not be any force for the offerer and acceptance parties. It should be free from any consent. It should be a genuine one as well. Next one is there should be certainty and possibility of performance. As said earlier, it should have a boundary or time limit to complete that contract. Hence it is called as there should be a certainty and possibility of performance. So let's see what is consideration. The consideration is nothing but when A promises to do something, A must get something in return. This something is known as consideration. See, the definition is quite clumsy here, so we'll break into some 2-3 word parts. Like, when A promises to do something, A is a person who promised to do something to another person. Hence, A must get something in return to do something. Whenever A is going to do something, he needs the return from the another party. Hence it is called A must get something in return. And this something is nothing but a consideration. For example, if A is doing some work for the B, A is a party, B is a party. A is doing some work for B, hence that A must get something in return of that work from B. That is called as consideration. Next point is parties. Who comes under parties? To whom we call as a parties into the contract. The definition is quite simple. The contract can be between two or more persons, and these persons may be individuals like you and me, businesses like Reliance and any other petrochemical industry or telecommunication industry, then organization like one institute to other institute, or government agencies. These are the parties who may come or who can come into the contract. So what the parties are? First one, they may be a vendors, vendor you know better, who works for another, that is called as vendors. Second, buyers, they may be a buyers, they may be buyers customer, they may be government agencies, they may be job workers, or they may be employees. So these are all called as parties into the contract. So this is all about the 4 topics we are going to we have seen in this lecture. So if you have any questions, you type your question in the chat box. I assure you that I will give you all your doubts to the end of its clarity. So let's summarize with the today's module about the contract. We studied about the contract. We studied 7 essential elements of the contract. We explained what is offer and acceptance. Also, we explained the consideration with example. We seen what are the parties which involves and the types of parties in the contract. This is all about the our today's session. So the assignments for you: define contract. State the basic elements of the contract with suitable example. In this, you have to define the contract according to section 2H. Then you have to state the basic elements that are required for the contract and provide some suitable examples. I shared you 1 or 2 examples, but you share minimum 4 examples for this question. The second question for the assignment is explain the term offer and acceptance and consideration, considering the situation of sale and purchase of the activity. The selling and buying activity you know very well, so you have to elaborate the terms offer and acceptance with the consideration pertaining to the selling and purchasing activity. Thank you.